Good afternoon and welcome to the Bush Creek East Wildfire Information Briefing for Saturday, August 26, 2023. We are joining you today from the traditional unceded territories of the Secwepemcu, Silks Okanagan, Sinixt, and Ktunaxa nations. I'm Tracy Hughes, Information Officer with the CSRD. Joining me today is Derek Sutherland, EOC Director and Team Leader of Protective Services with the CSRD, Mike McCulley, Information Officer with the BC Wildfire Service, and Larry Reed, Manager of Communications for Skwlāx to Secwepemcu. Today, starting out, we wanted to thank Eric Thompson for his work in leading these briefings. We're trying to get some of our people some time off. So today we will not be monitoring YouTube for questions directly. If you have additional questions after this briefing, you can just reach out to us. We're going to start by kind of going over some of the latest news. We did have our Sorrento evacuation order downgraded to an alert last night. That affected about 845 properties. Residents can now return to those properties. However, they need to remain on alert and prepared to leave on short notice should things change. We still have a very active fire situation, so please don't unpack. Information on returning to your home after being out on order is available on the CSRD website at csrd.bc.ca. Another reminder for people, Highway 1 Sorrento to Chase remains travel through only. There's no stopping in that zone. One of our other pieces of information that is new is that we have a new online search tool for people in the North Shuswap to be finding out information about the status of their properties. The link can be found on the news tab of the CSRD website, and that tool will be able to give you some information about any damages to your property. It's not specific information, but it will be able to give you an idea of whether your property may be affected or not. In the coming days, we're going to be reaching out individually to those people and offering some supports and talking about some of those next steps. Okay. So now, I'm going to be turning things over to Mike McCulley, the Information Officer for the BC Wildfire Service, for his latest update on the fire situation. Welcome, Mike. We have Mike.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. Just getting my video running. Hi, can you hear me okay?
All right, you got your ducks in a row, Mike. You ready?
Oh, we're close.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So again, I'm Mike McCulley with the BC Wildfire Service Information Officer, currently assigned to the Bush Creek East wildfire as well as the Rossmore Lake wildfire, both within our complex. I'll start with just a bit of a general sort of statement, and then I'll share my screen and walk through the map a bit. For us, we've had a few relatively quiet fire days in terms of growth. We do have a new fire size for Bush Creek East. It's now just over 43,000 hectares. That's mostly due to just a change in mapping. Anytime you get a fire with a jagged perimeter, like I've showed you yesterday and like I'll show you again soon, you know, the mapping can be a little bit tricky. So 43,000 hectares. But not any really significant growth to speak of on any big sections of this fire. For the Rossmore Lake fire, things stayed relatively stable there as well. Our crews have been able to get in a little tighter onto the guard lines and do a little more direct attack due to the quieter behavior. But having said that, we are watching the weather very closely. As we've been talking about, both myself and Forrest Forrest Tower for a few days, we know that we're in a warm drying trend. And we also know that British Columbia is in a severe drought. And so any rain that we had a week ago or so, you know, those effects are wearing off very quickly. The indices continue to climb. The big heavy fuels have always remained dry. They were never wetted by any of the rain we had. So the volatility is still there. And you can see that in the fire behavior over the last few days. I was out looking at the Bush Creek East fire yesterday, and there's certainly a little more smoke coming off it than what we've seen in previous times. So this is just something that people can be aware of and be prepared to see. A lot of that smoke is pockets of fuel within the perimeter of the fire, that are now burning off. And that's not terrible news. It helps to reduce any risk if we do see an increase in winds or a change in the weather that's not favorable for us. So if you're seeing some of those smoke columns, you know, it's generally not terrible news for us right now. We don't have large fronts of fire moving across the landscape, not at this time, and we don't expect that through the next few days. What you may also be seeing are our crews doing hand ignitions as they firm up guard lines. And I'll talk about that a little bit as I share my map. But again, I just wanted to say that not a lot of significant growth on either of the two fires within the complex, although we do see warm drying conditions and fire behavior starting to increase. And I will talk a little bit more about the weather at the back end of my briefing. So I will now share my screen. And if you could please let me know when you can see it, Tracy, that would be great.
Now we're coming just about there. All right, you've got it, Mike.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the Rossmore Lake fire. I just left a couple different lines on here than we normally have. You can see this yellow line that goes right through the middle of our fire, and people wonder, what is that? That is simply an administrative line drawn on a map that helps us to manage our fire under the span of control and chain of command that's required to do this type of work. So what we're doing there is we're putting a line across the fire, calling one of the sections Division Alpha. The bottom is Division Bravo, I believe. Just a way to split our crews up and have certain people supervising different sections of the fire. That's what those lines are, and that's why you'll sometimes see them on some of our maps. If you look down into the southwest flank of this fire, you can see sort of the perimeter drawn here with a little bit of fuel in between the head of the fire and what the perimeter is. That's just the line on a map. It's just a way to sort of estimate where the fire is, and that's why the fire size changes a little bit. If we get a different scan or a different sort of satellite trajectory on this, that line can change a bit. And that's why fire sizes, even when we're saying the fire is not growing and the fire size goes up or down sometimes, it's simply because of a mapping difference. We do have a significant number of crews working on this fire, still about 72 firefighters as of this morning. We did add a contingent of Mexican firefighters in to replace some of the Costa Ricans that left yesterday. And so we're feeling good about the numbers that we have on the fire. A large contingent of heavy equipment, still 38 pieces. And we have 17 helicopters within the complex that we share across the two fires at any given time during the day. I will also note that those helicopters could be used to go deal with any new fire that starts. So sometimes if you see a helicopter's leaving, they're going to do initial attack on a new start. We haven't had that today, but it's certainly a tool, a set of tools that are in the kit in case we need them. I think the general message on fire suppression on this fire today is that we are able to go in and do what we call tight lining or direct attack in most of the areas. So that's a good news story for us. It means that we're coming in a little bit closer to the head of the fire, simply because fire behavior is lower and conditions allow our crews to do that more safely. And that's kind of the work that's going on in the fire today. Rather than standing back and building guard at a distance, which we call indirect attack or parallel attack, and then removing the fuel by using ignition operations, we're able to get in and do a lot of tight lining on this fire right now. So it sort of speaks to the conditions and our abilities that we have. So again, not a lot of growth on this fire. Lots of direct attack going on, some good tight line work by our crews, and we continue to make great progress over here. I will now move over to the Bush Creek East fire. And in terms of general fire behavior, the story kind of remains the same. Here again, you can see these yellow lines, and these are just administrative lines again to split our divisions. Because we have more staff on this fire, 132 firefighters plus 104 structure protection staff. We have more divisions. It just allows us to break our work down into smaller manageable chunks sort of geographically. So the specific work that we have going on is continued effort on this flank close to Sorrento. We're going to call it the southeast flank. Our crews have made great progress on a guard line, and I've talked about this for a couple of days, that works up into an old cut block here coming off of the rail line, but they're also working on another line that moves sort of up above Sorrento here. So we're always looking to build as many plans as we can Once we get something in place, we don't stop. Again, our goal here is to work on these large flanks that can threaten communities. What I talked about yesterday in terms of, you know, the threat to a property or community is very real on this fire. The threat may not be the fire that you see right in your community, the smokes and the heat. It may likely be a large flank somewhere else. So our crews continue to work on this flank on the southeast corner. I'm now going to move up over to the northeast flank, where we also have some good work going on. We not only continue to reinforce these lines along the south of this arm that you see, but we are also always looking at our backup plan. On this fire, we have staff out today looking at a little bit of a bigger box, just in case things change. We're never going to sit back and be comfortable with what we've got until things are under control. So plan A is always a close line, and then we're working plan B out what we call a bigger box. So we do have staff in this area now looking at those big box options. Hopefully we never have to use them, but in case we do, that's sort of how we're doing our work. I'd like to talk a little bit about this area up above Lee Creek today. So you can see this very distinct line, and we've talked about it in past days where we did some planned ignitions during the large growth on the fire that occurred several days ago due to wind. And now the work that's going on is to kind of clean up these shoulders and make sure we're going to hold this fire in place where it is. We have this large section of unburnt fuel, these very important properties and communities to protect. So we have our BC Wildfire Service unit crews in working on these shoulders right now. And a similar story to the Rossmore Lake fire. They are able to get in today and do a little bit more of that tight line work. So kind of working closer to the edge of the fire, probably cleaning up some of the fuel with small hand ignitions as they go on both sides. And of course, we are always looking at our backup plan. And in here, it would be some type of line down a little bit lower. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but certainly there's some roads in here that we would utilize and look to make guard here in case we ever had to take the opportunity to remove this fuel with ignition. Currently, we don't see that we need to do that. We have a crew called the Titan unit crew actually working along these two flanks, again, trying to really firm these shoulders up and hold this fire as a very high priority. The other portion I'll talk about today is up above Magna Bay. We continue to look at guard line construction here, and of course we have crews working in this section as well. And again, it's the same story. Because the conditions are favorable, we're getting in as close as we can to the fire and trying to do that hard work of holding it where it is, but certainly looking to utilize any of the roads and networks in here to kind of build that second containment line, and always looking out for a big plan down the road. I think, unless there's any questions, I will sum up by saying generally no significant growth on the fire, but remember that we have these really, I'll call them gnarly little fingers of fire and challenging areas for crews to work. We have a lot of perimeter here because it's not a straight clean line. And so we do have challenges yet to go on this fire. But generally speaking, we're seeing some more smoke because of the heat and the warm, dry conditions, but not a lot of growth and not a lot of increased risk at this point. I'll wrap up my briefing by talking about the future weather that we're seeing and hearing. As most people who have been watching the weather will know, there is some change coming sometime probably around Tuesday or Wednesday. With any type of forecasting, the closer you get to the event, the more accurate the forecasters can predict the weather. And as the weather is more accurately predicted, our fire behavior experts and our fire growth analysts can give us a better picture of what they think this fire might do. So we know that we're not going to see big wind in the next few days. That's great news for us. But we are now looking at some potential change around Tuesday where a system is going to come through, probably not with the kind of winds we saw a week or so ago, but certainly a little more chance of some southwest winds blowing through to Tuesday. There's also going to be some precipitation that's becoming a little more certain in the forecast, but we're just not sure sort of the timing on that. So for us, we start to think about the fire we may have, not the fire we currently have. We're planning for that. We're predicting those conditions all the time, and we'll be working as best as we can to face any of those challenges that may come. So not a huge wind event like we saw before, certainly a change of weather coming. For us, we're very hopeful that it comes with precipitation and minimal wind, but we'll be looking ahead each day into the forecast and planning for that accordingly. So maybe for now, I will leave it for there. I hope I've covered most of the required bases. and I will see if there's any specific questions.
Sure, Mike. Can I ask? I've had some residents reach out in the area of Dorian Bay, Wolford Point, which was sort of our original Lower East Adams Lake fire, and they're just wondering if there's some specific information that you may have. Now, I know you're kind of coming in and transitioning, but those were some of our residents who were evacuated quite early on in the Lower East Adams Lake fire. And they're just wondering a little bit of specific information about their fire front.
Yeah, happy to maybe chat with you offline a little bit about that, Tracy. I'll have to go get a little bit more detail from my operations section on that.
Sure, so we'll follow that up. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
So now we're going to invite questions for Mike from the media who are on the call here. I see a hand up from Jordan Tucker.
Hi, Mike. I'm assuming I get to talk now.
Yes, please do, Jordan.
Sorry about that. Okay, hi, Mike. Welcome. Glad to have you on. I'm wondering, how has the situation at Scotch Creek, how are things going there? I know that there were ongoing tensions between residents who had stayed and different firefighters and RCMP. How has that situation progressed?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jordan. So listen, for the BC Wildfire Service, we're super focused on working with whoever we need to put this fire out and get it under control. That is our main and only objective right now. We continue to engage with, not only the community in that area, but all of the communities around and all of the nations. We do that fairly regularly. In this case, of course, we're making exceptional effort to be open, transparent, and ensure that we're working together. Jordan, that work's going to continue for several days. I think that you will see a continued presence of task force fire engines through that area because of the map I showed you and the risk that still exists. There's still a lot of fuel in there, and so our crews will be working there accordingly. But certainly for us, we continue to engage with those partners just like we would with any other partner at any time we're working on a fire. But to be frank, we're looking forward. We're looking not backwards. We're working hard to gain control of this fire, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Just a couple follow-ups and then to a different thing. Has the theft stopped?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Jordan?
Has the theft stopped in the area? I understand that it was difficult to put out equipment for a while there because of various thefts and relocations of equipment. How have things been going on that front?
Yeah, we're feeling good about that. There's no new theft that I'm aware of. Nothing like that's been going on. In fact, we're feeling like we have some really strong collaborations within the community now. There's no news there is good news. Great,
that's exciting. Okay, and I received an email from a woman who said that her parents had been so they'd felt sort of left out at Magma Creek. Sorry, I know it's like you're like brand new to this section, so I'm bearing that in mind. But basically this whole sort of section of Magma Creek felt relatively left out of the evac orders. And I'm just looking for some comment on there and whether or not they're able to leave that area now or not.
Yeah, so in terms of the orders and alerts, I'll leave that for the local government to speak of, but I'll talk a little bit about sort of the communications piece of that, Jordan. Anytime we're getting into these fires, we work really hard to build our lines of comms. It's not always perfect, and sometimes it takes us time, and that's been the case, in this event. If you think of the 2-week period that the previous incident management team had, including Forest Tower and others, they were dealing with things that were extremely challenging, things that we don't, unfortunately see too often in British Columbia right now. But, the focus there is public safety. Sometimes we miss a few links in the chain, but, we've had good weather and it allows us to reach out and sort of improve our tentacles of communication. I do feel really bad for people that, are feeling they're not hearing enough, or they're not getting what they need, or they're not being included, and we do apologize for that. It's very, very hard for us to make all those links and provide the info that people need, but we're working on it really hard, Jordan. We're trying our best to strengthen that with partnership with the regional district. And again, I can't thank the members within the community enough that have stepped up and help us to make those links and to help us to, help us to help them to speak to each other and to make connections with us to learn what they need to learn. So always looking to improve that. And we'll do that right till winter, right till the end of an event. We'll be working to improve our comms within the community. It's our top priority.
And Jordan, Derek Sutherland had a bit of a response to that comment as well.
Yeah, please do direct any of those types of inquiries to the EOC. If people are reaching out and they're feeling like they need more information, we want to hear from them, and we want to get the information into their hands. Magna Bay is kind of the end of our order areas, and some of it is in the order area and some of it is outside the order area. We are offering supports to both people that are in the order area and people that are outside the order area, and there's no difference in those supports. So I would encourage you to ask them to get in touch with us directly, and we're happy to help them in any way we can.
I will do that. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. And we'll go to Barbara. You've got a question for Mike?
Yes, thank you. It's Barb Ferkler from the South Shuswap Scoop. Just if there's any comment that you can make regarding the timeline for some of the hydro to be completed, the work that's been going on now in the North Shore. I know that crews are fairly active. Can you update on any timelines at this point?
Yeah, we had that conversation this morning, Barb, and they are, there's a lot of uncertainty with the power. They're scrambling, they're bringing in crews from all over the place. They have hundreds of power poles that need to be replaced, and they weren't able to give me any kind of timeline of when that's going to be restored. But do know that they're working feverishly to get that done.
Thank you.
Penny Daflos, you've got a question?
Yeah, and it's just in relation to utilities as well. If Derek could maybe just speak to how complicated it is right now. I understand that there's hydro crews, there's telecommunications crews, there's still active wildfire fighting, assessments of what's going on. Can you just paint us a picture of what it looks like on the ground? And I don't know if Mike wants to weigh in as well, just kind of that dual firefighting, but also trying to kind of resume services at the same time. If you could just paint us a picture of what the reality is on the ground.
Yeah, certainly. So obviously we want to get areas opened up as soon as we possibly can to residents. However, making that safe means getting those utilities in place. And driving through yesterday, the job is enormous, and we have crews from all utilities in that area. We have Fortis, we have hydro, we have telecommunications crews that are all scrambling to get services restored. The Skwlāx Anglemont Road is a little bit easier for them because it's closed or remains closed to the public, so they can go in there and get some work done. Yesterday, coming through Highway 1 after they opened up, they weren't quite finished their work on Highway 1, so they're having to stop traffic, and that really slows down their work as well. So, but yeah, they're all working really, really hard, and they're tired just like everybody else, but they're not stopping until it's done.
Mike, did you have a comment? Penny was hoping you may have something to say as well.
Yeah, I do. I certainly do. I'd like to tag on a little bit to that. I think this is the time when people really need to be patient and understand how dangerous it can be in an area post-wildfire for all those reasons Derek just described. It's not an easy orchestra to pull off this notion of recovery and getting people home. I assure you that all of us at BC Wildfire Service, and I won't speak for the local government, but I'm sure they feel the same way. Our main goal is to get a handle on the fire and get people home. It's just a really challenging climate to do that in. There are so many hazards out there. And if you think about the drought that we're in, I'll speak to the wildfire hazard specifically. We're seeing fire burn differently than we normally do. We're seeing it burn deep into the ground. We're seeing the trees compromised in ways they normally aren't. And what that means is we have to proceed with extreme caution. And I'll give you a real example of that. There's some cedar trees that work through this part of the world, has some cedar trees. Our crews are looking at these trees. They look sound, they look solid. They're assessing them with some rigor. There's training that they take to do that. And if you first look at the tree and assess it, it looks fine. It meets all the criteria of not being a danger tree. And then they touch it and it's hot. And so it's on fire on the inside. Those are things that we're not normally facing. And those are challenges that are really, really hard to manage in a situation like this, combined with all the things Derek talked about, the down power lines, the hundreds of broken poles that have to be replaced, the residue left over from being burnt out. There's so many things within this that it's very, very complex. And specifically around the trees and the roots burning out, I can't stress enough how dangerous it is for our crews and for people to be in those areas, after wildfire moves through. Sadly, for my agency, we've had fatalities because of those conditions this year. And I say that so that people don't take this lightly. Really important that they pay attention to it. Again, extremely challenging. These are vast areas that are burnt over, and it's not an easy situation. So for me, just really grateful for the patience of the public, the hard work of all the players, all those industries that are working together in a very coordinated fashion through the local government to kind of pull this off and get people home. It is not easy, and it is dangerous.
Yeah, I would like to add to that as well, that people maybe think, I'm robust, I'm ready to go back. But your job, Mike, and the job of all these other workers is to also keep things safe for the 5-year-old who may, want to run out and play in his backyard, or for the senior who's, mobility challenged. So, you're having to think of all those things when you're factoring in whether it's safe for people to return.
Yeah, I guess maybe I would add one more little thought here. I would close off by just saying, I started this session with some questions about our relations within the community. I have to tell you that having been in there, we can't do this alone. I'm really, really proud of what the community members have done in there and how they're helping us to share out these messages and help us with these dangers and help people to understand what's going on. We can't do without them. I think they're doing a fantastic job. We need them to continue to help us. And so, for all of those communities that have been so badly impacted, but they're still in there and they're still willing to work with us, I just wanted to thank them for that. It's very important and I appreciate it.
Good. I don't see any other hands up. So I think we're just going to move along. We have some additional comments from Derek Sutherland, who's the director of the Emergency Operations Center here in Salmon Arm. Derek, what can you tell us? Give us a little bit of an update.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a couple of things that we're working on over in the Emergency Operations Center to update the people on the call. So we're still barging in supplies between Eagle Bay and St. Ives, and that's to service those areas that are kind of cut off from the order areas. We are developing a form for our website for people who need to book some time on that ferry, and it's about half hour across the lake for those folks. Wildlife issues are becoming a concern due to the power being out, food's rotting, and the smell is driving animals into the area. CEOs have had reports of problem bears, cougars, raccoons. So we're getting garbage bins and freezer trucks out there to help us deal with that situation. And that'll be a large undertaking that's starting right now. Our mapping department is working with GOBC to get high resolution photos of the damaged communities so that we can get a good sense of the full extent of what we're dealing with so that we can deal with it holistically. Of course, we're continuing to support firefighters on site. There's 3 fire departments in these areas and of the North Shuswap. That's Scotch Creek, Lee Creek Fire Department, the Callista Fire Department, and the Anglemont Fire Department. Of course, the Shuswap Fire Department, which encompasses Blind Bay and Sorrento, is also being supported as they deal with their fire on their end. So we're also, one of the things that we started the day after things really ramped up and that fire took the big run was developing a recovery plan. So we're still developing that plan. It's near completion. We're already implementing portions of it. And this garbage issue is absolutely one of them. And then, of course, the personal notification system for people whose homes have been damaged as a result of this fire is being developed, and that'll roll out in the next few days. Of course, we released our numbers yesterday, and people are able to go to our website and our dashboard to see the status of their properties. And we will be following up with those people who do have damaged properties, and we do have contact for. We'll be following up with them directly.
One of the points on that is we do know that people are going to be finding out some of this information, and it's not going to be something that's easy to take. And there are supports that are in place on our website. We do have information about places where people can go and reach out to. We know this is going to be a very challenging and difficult time for these people. It's really it's hard to grasp the enormity of some of these losses. So please do reach out. There are resources available to help you. We will also be helping to provide you with some of those resources in the coming days. And that's great. Thanks, Derek, for all of that. We're now going to go to Larry Reed, who is the Manager of Communications for the Skwlāx to Secwepemcu First Nation, one of our neighbors. And I know there's been some questions about our mapping because we are neighbors. The CSRD speaks for the CSRD, and Larry, maybe you can give us an update on how things are with the First Nation there.
I will, and thank you very much for having me on. Wade, hello everyone. My name is Larry Reed. I am the communications coordinator, actually, with it's not the little Shuswap Indian band. They like to be known as the Skwlāx te Secwepemcu. So it's for radio and TV, Skwlāx te Secwepemcu. Yes, it's been a very traumatic week for the band, and our Kupki, who is Jamie Toma. In fact, he was one of the residents who lost his home in this mishap, and he's taking a day off. So it's my pleasure to fill in for him today. Just recapping what's transpired among the band the last week. We had a special band meeting on Wednesday, where band members found out for themselves whose homes were spared and who had lost their homes. Very emotional time there. Our thanks to First Nations Health Authority, who had mental health support there for our band members. Our band members are spread out. There's an emergency camp that was set up courtesy of Kamloops and the city of Kamloops out at Rayleigh at the softball fields there. So a number of band members are there. Some are also in Salmon Arm. The band has set up 2 offices. So we'd like to thank Shuswap Nation Tribal Council for giving us some office space in Kamloops. And as of Monday, there'll be an office set up in Salmon Arm. Many of you saw the press conference that Kupki and his 2 brothers held yesterday. Very emotional, of course. Also, the video that they shot and their stories, personal stories, were very touching to all of us. My thanks to Andrea Stelter, who is our emergency program coordinator. I have some updated stats to pass along today, and this follows on Wednesday. The Task Force 1 group went into the area and did some surveying. The updated numbers are 85 structures, a total loss, 13 partially damaged, and 139 structures that have no damage. So as far as the band members and the leaseholders are concerned, more details will be coming out once that rapid damage assessment has been finalized. I would like to thank all the various levels of government, including the CSRD, for their cooperation and their help in all this. Right now, the plan through Kupki is to rebuild all the homes, band members' homes that have been lost. In a meantime, as it stands right now, we don't really have no idea when the band members would be able to return to their homes, the ones that survived. The ones that haven't, a committee is being struck this week in order to get some plans going to rebuild those homes. Obviously, school is just around the corner, so our education department, under the direction of Craig Duck Chief, is contacting all the band members who have children from K to grade 12 to get them all set up for school, whether it be in Kamloops or in Salmon Arm. And he would like to thank both school districts 73 and 83 for their cooperation. They hope to have everything ironed out, obviously, before school gets back in service in the next little bit. And I think that's about it. Kupke is hoping to hold another band meeting virtually and in person next week. His long range plans are, when it's safe, to have a tour for band members, whether they get on a bus and go through the affected areas to see exactly what's for themselves, what's standing and what's not. We can also confirm as well that the Quayout Lodge is intact. The Talking Rock golf course, they have burned trees, but they saved all their golf carts and all that other sort of stuff. So when things get back to normal, they'll be back in service as well. The band has a gravel pit and all its equipment and stuff still intact. Sadly, of course, the gas station is gone. And so that also housed some band offices. And there was some 4 rental units in that structure, and obviously it was lost. So again, Cook's Jam, thanks to everyone that's reached out. Cookby says he's really thanks you for your support and your offer of support, and we will take the public's offer up when we realize and figure out exactly what we need. So that's the latest from us. And thanks again.
Thank you so much, Larry. And do please extend our thanks to Andrea Stelter from the band, who we've been working very closely with. She's been a great partner. And as you indicate, we're in this together. The best way to move forward is together. And we're going to continue to be partners in this. We'd now like to invite any questions for Derek or for Larry from the media. If anybody has anything and they could raise their hand. Oh, it's the weekend. Everybody's tired.
Fair enough.
Ourselves included. We do want to extend that thanks to so many people in our communities who have stepped up, who are working hard, who are volunteering, who are putting in really, really long hours to support this fire effort. It really is astounding, the level of commitment and support that people have offered. Just in closing, I will reiterate again that there's more information available.
I think Jordan has a question.
Oh, sorry, Jordan. Thank you for pointing that out. Go ahead.
Sorry. I know we all want to go back to our cozy little offices. I just had a question for Larry. What with, the Prime Minister had been here recently, I'm wondering if Cookby had a chance to get any coordination in with him about about funding or moving forward for rebuilding, and how, I guess how that's going to take place, just with what we know about how long it's taken for Lytton to get any movement forward. I know it's different funding agencies, but yeah.
Good question, Jordan. Actually, the Prime Minister had, to the best of my knowledge, and I talked to Cookby this morning, has not reached out to him. So obviously, we haven't heard anything from the federal government. Obviously, the Premier, the federal minister was here, and along with Bronwyn Ma. They toured the camp in Rayleigh earlier this week, and I think it was a good meeting and they got some support there. And I guess, and as we saw, I saw the TV clips with the Prime Minister yesterday. That's why he had his minister up here. And so at this point, nothing worked out. I know we've been in conversations with the various levels of government. We are using, and Urban Systems, who does some work for us, also did work for Lytton. So they're kind of their experience with the Lytton band, we're utilizing that to help us guide our way through all the different ways that we need to, and avenues that we need to explore so we can rebuild.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good. So last call, anybody with any final questions from the media? All right, I don't see any hands up. Of course, you're welcome to try and follow up with me after this. I know the media mostly have my number, and you're free to reach out. I will reiterate on the subject of people helping. We do have a donation line that people can call so that they can make appropriate donations. That is 250-833-3396. For information, the CSRD's Emergency Operations Center number, 250-833-3350. And then our Emergency Support Center is 250-833-3360. So that's 3360. And please continue to follow the CSRD's websites, our social media platforms, to stay informed with the latest. And to continue to use our Alertable app. You can sign up for that through our website, and it's going to send you direct alerts if there's going to be changes to evacuation orders or alerts. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow for an update at 2 p.m. as well.